Please welcome Melanie Killen, Professor of Human Development.
Good evening. I'm here to talk with you about one of the more perplexing and fundamental aspects of human development. On the one hand, we're moral beings, and we care about equality, fairness, and others' welfare. But on the other hand, we're members of groups, and groups make assumptions about others, and these assumptions often result in social exclusion and discrimination, particularly when there's an us versus them mentality. I want you to think about the groups that you identify with or you think about as being part of you. That could include you might be thinking about your gender, your race, your ethnicity, your religion, your nationality. But you also might be thinking about your sports teams, cooking clubs, and being a member of a choir. So as adults, we navigate many different groups, and we understand that social exclusion from some groups has very different consequences from other groups. I'll give you an example. If you're a member of a track team and you're excluded because you're a slow runner, well, you feel bad, but you understand they need fast runners. But if you're a member of a track team and you're Muslim and you're excluded because you're Muslim, well, that's hurtful, painful, and demoralizing. It's wrong. So children are just forming their own group identities. They're just starting to think about who they are, what their identity is, and what groups they become members of. And this is something that's very challenging for them. I want to share with you an example from a quote from Alex, a boy who's 10 years old in 5th grade. And he said, one time, a long time ago, I was new at this school, and people used to judge me because of my skin color. And they used to make fun of me and talk about it and stuff. Like back then, I didn't think anything was wrong. But I just wanted to be friends. And after a while, it just escalated to the point where I had to see a counselor and stuff. This is a painful experience from a young person, only 10 years of age. And this is the kind of thing that students and children do experience. They experience social exclusion based on their group identity. And this is an issue of well-being, because children who experience this often suffer from stress, depression, anxiety, social withdrawal, and a low motivation to go to school. After all, school is a social context. So what do schools do about this? Not much, unfortunately. When in 2018, 3,000 teachers were surveyed, and 2/3 of them witnessed a hate incident in school, a hate bias incident. But when they reported it to administrators, there wasn't much follow-up. Nothing was done. And so we have an opportunity here to actually figure out how to have children share experiences and create solutions. After all, by the time children are 3 to 5 years of age, they care about fairness. They share toys, they take turns on the slide, and they want everybody to get an equal piece of cake. Even if they're not going to benefit from it, they want everyone else to get an equal piece of cake. By 6 to 11 years of age, children start to understand that some people have more and some people have less. And if you give out the same to everyone, it doesn't really change things. You actually need to give more to those who have less. In other words, level the playing field. By 12 to 14 years of age, kids start to understand systemic biases, and they understand that societies have policies in place that are discriminatory and unfair. So after 25 years of research, looking at how children think about these things, we decided in the Social Moral Development Laboratory at the University of Maryland to create a program called Developing Inclusive Youth. And this is for 8 to 11-year-olds. And here's a screenshot of what kids see when they go on. There's 2 parts to this program. There's an individual part and there's a group part. In the individual part, they're sitting at their desk and they see the screenshot. And there's 8 boxes because there's 8 weeks, and each week they click on one box. And up will pop a story about kids making a difficult decision. I'm going to give you an example. So the second box says science. And here, Samantha is sitting with some boys, and they're talking about building a robot for their science project. And Samantha says, hey, can I join? And Mark says to Daniel, you know, girls aren't good at science. But Daniel whispers back, my sister's good at science. And so kids are watching these scenarios where kids are kind of struggling with this and thinking about what to do. And it's an intensive, individualized experience. When kids are watching this, they're entering responses to questions such as, is this all right? Is it all right or not all right that this kid said this? Or, how do you think each person feels? What should they do? Should they include or exclude? And in this scenario, they'll watch what happens when Samantha's included and they'll also watch what happens when she's excluded. So this happens for about 15 minutes when the kids are sitting here. And immediately after, the teacher, who's been trained in one of our workshops to facilitate discussions, brings everybody up to the front of the room, and they sit in a circle. And the teacher starts out and says, "So, what happened in the story? What'd you see?" And the kids start talking about it. They get animated, teacher's helping them, they listen to each other. And halfway through, the teacher says, "So has this ever happened to you?" And this is when Alex, the boy that I quoted earlier, talked about being excluded because of his skin color way back in 3rd grade. He's now in 5th grade. This is something that he talked about. And the kids, when they heard this, they said, "What? I can't believe this. That's wrong. That shouldn't happen." And some other kids said, "Well, that happened to me. I'm a girl, and at recess when I wanted to play soccer, the boy said, I couldn't play with them because I'm not good." And so the teacher is kind of helping them listen to each other and try to think about solutions. Sort of what should we do? So this is our program. It happens for 8 weeks, about 2 months. We wanted to test it, to evaluate this program. Teachers get a lot of programs in schools, and they often say, "Well, does it work? Has anyone tested this?" So we decided to test it. So we had 1,000 students, actually 983 to be exact, and half of them went through our program for 8 weeks. And the other half did what we call business as usual. They're the control group. And everybody got a survey right before it started and 2 months later, right at the end. And this survey had items from our research over many years. So what did we find? Well, we found that children who were in the program were more likely to think that excluding somebody because of their race was wrong and unfair. We also found that children, when looking at pictures of kids from different backgrounds by gender and ethnicity and race, they had more positive associations. They thought they would be friendly, smart, hardworking, and they would be good at math and science. We also found that kids would have a greater desire to play with diverse peers. So these are some of the findings that we've had. We had teacher focus groups as well, and that was very illuminating. Some of the teachers told us, our class really bonded after this experience because they were sharing stories and they got closer to each other. Another teacher said, I learned things about my kids I didn't know they experienced. They really, talked about this. And teachers also talked about there were times where actually they talked about things from the program to create solutions. So this stalker business at recess, the kids decided at recess we're going to pick boy, girl, and that way it'll be equal, and we'll all get to play. So this is the program. One program does not change systemic biases. This is just a first step. But a real important lesson from this, from our project, is intervention early is essential. In our project, 3rd graders changed even more than 5th graders. These kids are talking about these things. They're thinking about them. And they need a guided space, a place in school where they can talk about it in a structured format. It seems to be very helpful. Ultimately, the goal is to create inclusive classrooms, enable children to be agents of change, and to enable all children to thrive and succeed. Thank you.